Guten Morgen, wir sprechen heute mit Peter Yao von First Graphite, einem sehr interessanten Unternehmen aus Australien, das in Sri Lanka, wie es auf Englisch heißt, Graphit produziert, und zwar sehr, sehr hochgradiges Graphit. Die Aktie hat sich schon sehr gut entwickelt. Jetzt steht aber auch der nächste Entwicklungsschritt auf den Projekten des Unternehmens in Sri Lanka an. Ja, Peter, good to have you.
Thank you.
Um, As I understand, you have recently come back from your projects in Sri Lanka and from First Graphite's projects. Just please give us an update on what you've been doing there in the last couple of weeks.
All right, well, thanks, Bjorn. The last couple of weeks have seen considerable progress on the projects there. At Pandanaya, we've completed the cementing of the annulus on the historic shaft. Meshing and rock bolting has now been completed to the bedrock, and we've begun to move to bog out the sediment at the bottom of the shaft, so that's underway. At Alukatia, which is our other mining licence, we've completed the installation of all of the infrastructure at Shaft H, and we're continuing to blind sink the shaft liners there towards the ore zone. And at Shaft J, we've completed the structural civil concrete work, and we'll now proceed to install the head frame and the other infrastructure such as generators, compressors and hoists that need to be installed there.
Okay, so this sounds like you're making headway, getting to the ore. What do you need to do then now to be able to start producing ore, and how long do you think it will take you to get there?
Well, at Pandanaya, we've progressed to the point where we can start to winze and then produce ore, and we're targeting to be on ore by the end of July or early August, just depending on the ground conditions and how much historic waste we have to move. And at Alukatia in Shaft H, we have approximately 20 metres of blind sinking to do until we reach the bedrock and are on the ore zone there.
Okay. So that's not that far off, really. But once you're in production, how will you sell the DSO? I've had a lot of companies or graphite companies, other companies saying, okay, we've got an offtake agreement. You don't have anything like that. Don't you need it?
No, in fact, probably the opposite. Sri Lankan graphite has actually been in huge demand. The problem has been that people have not been able to, or users have not been able to get hold of this ultra high grade material on the open market. So while we have taken some conversations with a couple of parties in the United States that are carbon traders, we don't have an offtake or need to have an offtake in place at the moment. The other thing needs to be borne in mind is that our low capex requirements mean that we don't have to have offtake, unlike a lot of the other flake producers that have capex requirements in excess of $100 million US who need offtake to be able to get their finance.
Oh, okay, so that's an advantage too, yes. Now, what kind of prices do you expect to generate with when selling your product? And give us an indication, please, of how this is in relation to flake graphite, let's say, the usual stuff.
Well, the Sri Lankan graphite has always had a price premium because of the quality of the graphite, and the current market price on 99% TGC powder passing 70, with 5% passing 75, sorry, 5mm passing 75 microns is about $3,090 per tonne. So that's well above the flake graphite prices, which are around about 1,300.
Oh, okay. That's distinction. So let's say you're in production. You have the first one or two shafts going. How do you plan to expand that production? What are your plans there?
Well, rather than talking about shafts, let's talk about shifts, because we've always stated that our objective was to have 20 shafts, but that was based on a single shift operation. At Shaft H and Shaft J at Alukatia, we believe we'll be able to double shift those shafts, if not even triple shift them. So that's the equivalent of actually putting in another 4 shafts. So we're still aiming to get 20 shifts over the next 3-year period.
Okay, thank you. So this is the graphite production, but actually your longer term, let's say, strategic objective for First Graphite is to produce graphene from your Sri Lankan material. As far as I understand, you have been developing a unique or new procedure to produce graphene from your material with the help of the University of Adelaide.
Yes, and in fact, this is probably the most exciting aspect of our story and the one with the greatest upside potential. We've made sound progress on the optimisation work that we've been doing in conjunction with the University of Adelaide on a rather unique process for the production process. So we're getting conversion rates, very rapid conversion rates that are approximately 50% of the material that we put in, and that's happening within 20 to 24 hours. So that's really great, and we're sufficiently encouraged by this success to move directly to a 250 litre full-size production cell, which will contain proportionately larger quantities of lump graphite. And this should be operational by August, and it's capable of producing approximately 6 tonnes per annum of graphene material.
Okay. To be able to sell the graphene, then there needs to be a bulk market or mass market for it. Is that already there, or do you see it developing?
Well, as with the Sri Lankan graphite, part of the problem in developing these markets is being able to get quantities of graphene that are at commercially realistic prices. And the company's been involved in discussions with a number of parties that have been testing both our high-grade vein graphite and the graphene material. And we think that with the production process that we've got, we will be in the lowest quartile of cost in terms of production cost.
So once this material is there, the market will be able to develop further.
Yes.
Okay. Now you said there's the most upside to your story from the graphene production. What kind of prices are we talking here? I think there might not be an established price yet, but what do you think, what could be realistic?
No, there isn't an established price yet. If you look at go online, you'll see that graphene is selling at prices up to $300 per gram, but that's not in bulk quantities. Some operators are suggesting that the price will be about $50,000 to $55,000 per tonne once it becomes a commoditised item. And accepting that proposition, the logic driving FGR is that by converting our graphite to graphene, we get an uplift of up to 25 times over what we would be getting for just selling it as graphite.
And the cost of producing this is, as you said, pretty low from...
Yes, it will be marginal because the capital, again, the capital cost required to produce these cells is very low.
Okay, perfect. So that sounds as if First Graphite has a good way to go. So why do you think, in a nutshell, it would be a good time for German or other investors to take a position in First Graphite now, in your personal opinion?
Well, we're nearing the commencement of production, which will make us one of the first of all of the graphite companies to actually be a producer. The other thing is with the graphene, which is quite exciting, being able to produce 6 tonnes per annum with a modest capital expenditure puts us in a box seat in terms of being able to sell into the graphene market. Our market capitalisation is very low. It's only about 30 to 32 million Australian dollars, which is about 20 million euros. And I contrast that with Director Plus PLC, which recently listed on the AIM market. Now, it raised £12.8 million at 75p and has a market cap now of about £66 million or 84 million euros. And it's saying that it would have a capacity for 30 tonnes per annum of graphene. I therefore think it's our view, the view of all the directors of FGR, that we represent a low cost and low risk exposure to this new disruptive technology that's being brought into production, and we'll be in a position where we can also control the raw material that goes into our production process from our production of graphite.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.